Hello and welcome to another episode of Ride Rescue. I've been working on the Buick now, doing all the body work. I have it all finished. I've gone through coat after coat after coat of primer, spot filler, and just really fine sanding the whole thing till I'm comfortable with it just being perfectly flat and ready for paint. So at this stage, I want to make sure everything else is finished before I get it in this final coat. So I want to redo the dash. There's some areas across the top of the cowl. I want to do the windshield frame. So I want to completely take everything apart on the dash, restore all the pieces, paint the dash all black. I want to do a semi-gloss black. I'm changing this car over. Originally had all blue interior, but I'm going to change it to all black. As I'm putting all the parts back in the dash, I'm restoring all the pieces and putting them back in as though they're new. The dash cluster itself, I completely took everything out of it, restored all the pieces, polished everything up. It has a plastic lens across the dash itself. I polished that so it looks like it's brand new. It looks like glass even though it's plastic. And where the clock goes in, I just happened to be browsing online trying to find a digital clock for the car, and I found a tachometer for the car. The tach was actually made for Chevelles and Novas and Camaros. This one just happened to be sized up a smaller size for the Novas, and even the background and the colors match the dash of this car. So I was really excited to find that piece. So I installed that in. Steering column in my car was originally an automatic shift. I'm putting the shifter on the floor, so I need to change that column to a manual on the floor type of a column. Couldn't find one anywhere. I did find some pieces for one that were outrageously expensive. They didn't put a whole lot of stick shifts in the Skylarks. Could probably find one from a Chevelle that would work. What I ended up doing is I just ground off the stub that stuck out for the column shift, and I filled that with epoxy filler and some fiberglass, and then finished all that smooth so you can't even tell it was ever there. The steering wheel, I wanted to go with a custom steering wheel off of a Buick GS, and that 3-spoked wheel is a really nice wheel. The hub for the 64 Chevelle works on this particular steering wheel, but for some reason the hub on the Chevelles was just a little bit bigger. I couldn't find one that was a perfect fit for this car, but I did buy one of the larger ones and hoping that it had enough material that I could turn it down. Unfortunately, it was really thick cast aluminum, and I was able to turn that down. It was kind of fun. I didn't have access to a lathe, so I thought, well, the next best thing is to create my own. I hooked up a shaft. I mounted that hub to a shaft that I could turn with my drill. Once I got the speed of the drill constant, I had to play with it with a little clamp on the trigger. And then I used another drill with a grinding wheel, a sanding wheel on it, and I just sanded with the sander going one way and the hub going the other way, and just kept working it, putting it on the steering column and working it until it was a perfect fit. So it was pretty unique to this car that no one else had. Along with restoring the steering column and the dash panel, I restored and improved where the control system went into the dash. It would look good before, but I wanted to really finish that off. This is a show car. So I finished that all off. I welded some little plates on the side of it so that when it was down, it looked all finished before you could kind of see the edges of it. I refinished the glove box. I replaced the glove box liner with an aftermarket liner. Repainted all the dash, repainted all the windshield frame. I restored all of the vent cowling area, and I restored all the wiper mechanism and transmission. So that was all painted. I was ready to start masking everything off. As I'm moving the car around, I noticed, well, now's a good time to work on the brake system again. The 67 Chevelle new old stock master cylinder that I bought, it leaked. And I had painted the brake booster because I wanted everything to have a similar color. I didn't like having that cadmium coated yellow gold look. So so I painted it, but when it leaked, brake fluid eats right through paint. So I took a little bit of time, restore that, clean it all up, repaint it, put it all back together, and then put the car in the garage and completely masked everything off. Masked off everything in the garage that I didn't want to get overspray on, and masked every aspect of the car. I didn't want overspray on anything. So then it comes to the topic. I know this topic has come up online. Paint with plastic or paper. The professionals rarely use plastic. It's nice to use plastic to cover things up and mask with, but if you're spraying near that plastic and you get overspray on it, and you're going through a long warm day and things start to move with your air hose, little flecks and pieces will flake off and it'll get in your paint. So I stay away from plastic. There's areas on the frame that I want to wrap with plastic. I want to wrap the engine with plastic, but everything else, I'll use paper as much as possible. I happen to run out of my craft paper that I typically use. You'll notice in these pictures I used regular newspaper. Newspaper works great. It's porous. It sucks in the paint. It holds the paint. It holds the dust. So that's a good alternative. But the craft papers are typically what I like to use. So now that the car is all masked off, it's all wiped down, and it's ready to paint, first thing I do is put on an epoxy primer surfacer. The epoxy primer surfacer is an excellent bonding agent. It'll bond to all kinds of surfaces, as well as great adhesion for the top coat of paint. It doesn't take a whole lot to seal it. It can run really easy if you make it really thin, but put on a thin, light coat over the whole car and it bonds everything excellent. When I was trying to decide what color and what type of paint to use for the car, I saw an episode of Trucks one day on television. The host of the show on Trucks used the Summit Racing single stage paint in different stages with both the color as well as the clear, and he blended it all together. What he did was he used the first coat of 100% color. The second coat did a blend of 75% color and 25% clear, and then dropped down to a 50% color and a 50% clear mix, and then went to a 25% color and a 75% clear, and then 2 coats of clear. It just added so much depth to all of those colors and the metallics and the clears that it just looked so deep and wet and shiny. It had all kinds of vibrant colors flashing around in that depth. I got excited to try it out. So I decided to go with a dark burgundy. I wanted a black cherry pearl. I'd seen a lot of black cherry pearls on different cars. I saw it on an El Camino. It was gorgeous. I saw it on a Harley Davidson and went, that's the one I want. Summit Racing had a black cherry pearl that was really close, but it wasn't quite what I wanted. It had a little bit more of the red tones to it. I wanted something more of the purple and the burgundy tones that I saw on the Harley Davidson color. And it had some gray or darker undertones. So what I did was I bought a dark gray charcoal, and I mixed that in with the dark burgundy and a little bit of purple, and it was just beautiful. It was just exactly what I had in mind. I took a gallon of paint and a cup full of purple and a pint of the dark gray, so I knew exactly how I was going to match that each time, mixed it all together, and then I went through those stages. As I got into the thinner stages, and the 50% color and clear mix and the 25% color and clear mix, those other tones and colors started to really dance and really show up. So then it got me thinking, as the darker tones were starting to move, it was literally, it felt like it was moving down the side of the car. I decided to flash in with black or the dark gray charcoal along the bottom of the car and get that foose fade. I don't know if you've heard the term foose fade, but Chip Foose came up with it. Used to use it a lot in overhauling, and I wanted to give it a shot. So I tried that. By the time I got through a day, it just happened to be a beautiful October, sunny day. It was really warm. it took me all day long to go through all these coats and coats and coats of paint. It was getting fairly late in the day and it was starting to get cooler outside. Well, it was literally starting to flow metallics on my car. It was amazing. Never had this happen before. I've painted a lot of metallics and they'll sag on you and they'll move on you. You'll get runs, literally runs. This car had no runs in it, but it was a complete disaster. Absolute failure. Not a run, beautiful smooth finish. The clear looked excellent, but the metal flakes and the colors were starting to move between the layers. It was quite the phenomenon. You can see it in these pictures. It's heartbreaking. A full day and a lot of expense, but it happens. So you scuff it up and you do it again. So that's going to have to be for another day. Unmask it. Started doing some other things. I wanted to separate. I wanted to keep everything different. When it came to the front clip, I wanted to paint it with the doors open. I wanted to paint it with the trunk open. I didn't want to have any overspray areas. But for me to go back now and scuff all the door jambs and inside the trunk and all those areas, the hinges and everything, it's just going to be too much work. So what I was trying to avoid of masking off the edges of the doors and sealing everything off and sealing off the trunk, I'm just going to do it the other way. The other way is put the whole car together, mask as much as possible, and if you get overspray on something, you just have to buff it out. So that's the next step. So now that I got to buy more paint and I've got to do some more sanding, I'm going to hold off on updating you on the cost of this car because the costs have gone up some more and the labor hours have gone up a lot more. So this is becoming a very expensive car. And I'm looking at having to buy something I can flip now because I'm out of money. I need to put some money back in. So on one of my next episodes, my next videos, you'll probably be seeing two different videos. You'll see a video of a truck that I ended up buying that I'm going to do a quick flip on so I can put some money back into the savings account. And then I'll be going back to the Buick and back to completely building a custom enclosed paint booth in my garage. When I painted it this time, as everything started to sag, I was having some lighting issues. There was some areas that was pretty hard to see, and I wasn't sure if I was getting a good smooth finish or getting a dry area or possibly even a run. Fortunately I didn't, but I want to eliminate that, so I'm going to enclose the garage in white sheets of paper all the way around, put in a whole bunch more lights, and then start over again. So with that next episode, look forward to getting that all finished. Look forward to showing you the final paint job and start putting this car back together. So thanks for joining me on this episode. Really appreciate you tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Stay tuned for more upcoming videos.